Hey everyone, Marvel Rivals is absolutely destroying its competition, and it's gotten to the point where if I was the Overwatch people, I would start panicking due to just how well this game has been going since release, and there's quite a bit to talk about here. And beyond Rivals, I have a huge problem with PlayStation as well. As a lifelong fan of PlayStation, I will admit that this generation has had more cancelled games than ever before. And it's time to call out Sony for not delivering the goods to their players. But first, Rivals. I've been playing this game every single day pretty much and having a blast doing it. I'm currently trying to platinum the game myself. I'm almost there, but that Wolverine trophy is going to cause me to commit war crimes in frustration, dude. Having to ult on 3 enemies and kill them with a single use of Wolverine's ult is insane. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but my last ditch effort to getting this trophy is to maybe just lure my girlfriend into playing as Groot by giving her food so she can pull all the enemies together so that I can hopefully ult on them and get that damn trophy finally. I'll let you guys know if I manage to get that stupid trophy. But besides Wolverine being very annoying for me, the game is great. Yeah, I think the battle pass could progress quicker. I do think there needs to be more avenues to gain the currency to get the battle pass stuff unlocked, but for what it is, Rivals is damn good fun to play. That is, unless you're named Blizzard, then this game is your worst nightmare. And when you start looking at the stats, yeah, I would be mad too. From the gamer of all places, we have this one. Report: Marvel Rivals is holding on to its player base much better than Helldivers 2, Diablo 4, and other recent live services. So this is kind of crazy, but it's actually true. Rivals is outperforming quite literally every single live service game right now in the same period of time. However, I do think comparing Helldivers 2 is a tad unfair since that game was not free to play. You had to pay $40 for it or 50 Canadian like me. However, despite Helldivers, Rivals is killing it, and they're all free to play pretty much in terms of comparisons. Well, Diablo kind of falls into the same category as Helldivers if we're being fair though. Anyway, according to this report, games like Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 had already lost about 53% of their player base within the same time frame as Rivals. As of this video coming out, Rivals has been live for a little over 2 months, but even then it's still doing better in comparison. The craziest part is how much of the player base Rivals has retained since launch. I'll give you a second to guess. What do you think it is? Has Rivals lost 30% of its players, maybe 20%, 40%? Any final guesses? The answer is that Rivals has only lost 3% of its player base since launch. Yeah, you heard that right. 3%. Using Steam database as a reference, Rivals was averaging around 331,225 players on Steam alone. 6 weeks later to right now, Rivals is sitting at 320,892 players on average on Steam. Again, this doesn't even include the obvious massive player base on PlayStation or even Xbox. If you factor these in the number of players engaging, it's likely in the millions. In comparison, at release, Overwatch 2 was able to hit around 38,000 players only on Steam alone, which is a mere 10 to maybe 12% of what Rivals hits even to this day on the regular. Yeah, it's not looking good if you're an Overwatch fan. The game with the second highest retention span in a while was a game called Delta Force. I haven't played this myself, so I don't really have an opinion on the quality of the game, but the fact that it's been able to retain its player base at even higher rates than Helldivers and others, that's impressive as well, and I wanted to shout it out too. So what can Overwatch do, you may be asking? Not much really, considering that Marvel Rivals director has vowed that the game will receive a new hero every month and a half. And currently, we all know that Reed and Sue are in the Rivals already, with Johnny and Ben coming in about a month's time, so this about lines up. I assume and I figure that the first season will be an anomaly since it looks to add 4 heroes in one season. But if the meta going forward is 1 every 1.5 months, that still means that Rivals will get 8 fully playable new heroes every single year of its lifespan. That's a lot, dude. And considering Marvel has quite a few characters people want in the game, and that's putting it lightly, I really want Daredevil, Cyclops, and someone like Juggernaut would be really cool too. And there is plenty to add to the game in the future. Overwatch simply can't really keep up. I don't see how they can turn things around. I mean, Rivals obviously has the Marvel license too, which of course makes everything even more interesting considering the cross-brand potential it has with the MCU movies. We already know that Hulk is getting a Red Hulk variant skin when Captain America 4 comes out. We know the Insomniac Spider-Man suit is coming to Rivals when Spider-Man 2 releases on PC, and with Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four coming in movie form this year too, yeah, expect lots of collabs. I'm guessing we'll probably see a Bucky skin for the Thunderbolts release. Rivals will also have a new season by then too. Would be really dope to see someone like Sentry get added to the game as a cross-promotion thing, and I mean that said promotion is working. We all know that Sue Storm's Malice skin has been very popular, and the cost of those legacy Fantastic Four covers with Malice on them have actually gone up in price on places like eBay as well, which that's cool to see. Then there's this article from Games Radar. It's time to stop calling Marvel Rivals an Overwatch 2 killer now that its features have already surpassed it. One of the big reasons Rivals has been killing it, especially in places like China, is because Overwatch 2 is actually not available to play in that country for about the last 2 years. The reason for why this happened was because Blizzard was unable to reach a deal with NetEase to release their games as playable in China under their country's rules. So this ban goes beyond Overwatch. We're talking Diablo 4, all of Blizzard's games pretty much were pulled due to this deal falling through. Which means for the past 2 months, in China at least, Rivals has been gorging on the Chinese market with literally no competition due to this. However, Blizzard's games will be returning to China as a new deal has been finalized. They will return in February 2025. So not long now, but at this point, while there may be interest by Chinese fans to play Overwatch 2, Rivals has had enough time to ingrain itself already with the populace. What's funny is that Blizzard has to now work with NetEase, who in case you don't know, they made Marvel Rivals. So it's like your competitor is now going to have to hold your game up for you in their home turf. Yeah, there's no way that NetEase is going to use this to their advantage somehow. They will. But like Games Radar said, Rivals has become the de facto Overwatch killer. It was first perhaps hyperbole, but now it's pretty much solidified. Rivals offers almost double the skins in their battle passes compared to what Overwatch does currently. And there's the added bonus that battle passes do not expire. As long as you buy the pass before the season is over, you will have access to it forever. And I do think that this needs to become a new norm going forward if you ask me, even with something like Fortnite. It sucks for new players because there's entire galleries of skins and emotes and sprays that they can never access that has been locked away forever because they didn't play the game years ago, or they just weren't born yet to play Fortnite. I don't know, a lot of young kids play it too. And if you ask me, it'd be a huge boon to both these kinds of games and in general content preservation if legacy passes became available for people to buy. I would love to get the OG Spider-Man skin in Fortnite, but I wasn't playing it at the time. But if Fortnite made that pass available today, yeah, I would probably buy it. Rivals is doing this right, and I think it's a smart move on their part that will likely change how other live service games do their content as well. Because let's be real, people are all busy, we all are. I can't grind these games 24/7 knowing that they'll expire at some point. But if you give me all the time that I need so that I can play it when I'm able, yeah, that'll definitely make me want to play your game and engage with it. Actually, a big reason why I don't pick up like 99% of live service games these days is because I know I already missed all the big events and content that is either now gone or gated. The barrier to entry for this sort of thing, it needs to be tackled. Sure, it will piss off the Puritans, who will say that these new people shouldn't have access to skins that they have, but if you ask me, being more open to new players is never a bad thing. Another big reason why Rivals is killing Overwatch is because NetEase has actually been doing good by their customers when it comes to balances and patches. Overwatch has struggled with this for years, taking literal years to implement what should be basic features. The fact that you have articles like this one still showing players how to troubleshoot Overwatch 2 to get it run properly, and this article is just a month old at this point, is embarrassing. These should not be problems that exist for your game years after release. Some features Rivals has already implemented that took Overwatch 2 years to put in themselves include a stream mode. This makes things so that like players' names are anonymous, and they also offer previous season player data so balanced patches can be compared to them. Then there's another problem, which is not even just Overwatch 2, but Call of Duty and many others that still refuse to even tackle, which is exploits that allow console players, for example, to use mouse and keyboard control schemes while playing and still have the auto-aim feature that is normally applied to controller-only layouts. These adapters essentially make a console player have both the precision and added help of both PC and console in one go, creating an unfair unique upper hand over their competition, yet NetEase has already banned these hardware adapters that do this. And by the way, Overwatch 2, they still haven't done this despite the community complaining for literal years about it. Not to mention recent patches nerfed the most OP heroes that were breaking the game like Hawkeye and Hela, while also changing people like Jeff's super so it wasn't as impossible to avoid. Personally, ever since they made Jeff's ult not as instantaneous, I would say about 8 out of maybe 10 times I am usually able to avoid Jeff's ult now. I usually only get caught in it if I'm playing a hero who lacks mobility like Groot for example. But they also added promise that we'll be getting heroes every 1.5 months, while Overwatch 2 currently adds a new hero every other season. Yeah, by the way, it's not even every season that they do that is crazy. This puts new heroes in Overwatch at a severe disadvantage, looking at the history of how Blizzard has treated new hero additions. 2020, only one new hero was added, which was Echo. In 2021, no new heroes nor reworks were given to any heroes in Overwatch at all. Then in 2022, Overwatch 2 got announced and finally got new heroes like Sojourn and Junker Queen and Kiriko and Ramatra. 2023 saw 3 new heroes in Lifeweaver, Illari, and Maga. In 2024, there were only 2 new heroes, which were Venture and Juno. At this point, when this video goes live, there hasn't been a new hero in Overwatch 2 since August 20th, 2024, which was Juno. So that's about half a year has gone by pretty much, and there hasn't been any new characters added to that game. In 6 months' time, according to Rivals director, they will have added 4 heroes in the same time frame. In Season 1 alone, you'll be getting 4 new heroes in total as well. Now obviously quantity doesn't equal quality, but in Rivals' case I actually find that the heroes are indeed quality. Well, unless it's Wolverine, because he needs a rework, or maybe I just suck with him, could be either thing, but anyways. But by placing what is here and what is promised, Overwatch 2 is indeed fumbling the bag, so to speak. And it's very obvious that Rivals does not want to let go of the gas pedal anytime soon. By this time next year, it'll be very interesting to see just how robust Rivals ends up becoming. But it's really Blizzard's fault and inability to want to give players what they want. The big reason for me dropping Overwatch 2 was the fact that they cancelled the promised PvE mode entirely, and when it was confirmed that that mode got cancelled, not because it was bad per se, but because the higher-ups couldn't monetize it to nickel and dime players enough, it just made me just kind of put my hands up and just walk away entirely. Because originally, the PvE mode was this robust story mode with replayable missions and entire character skill trees, but that's the thing. The mode was not monetizable in a similar sense to PvP, but the fact the game was sold at a premium price point just to get into it originally was ridiculous as well, considering they lied and then didn't give players what they were advertising. Eventually what would happen was Blizzard would release some of these missions in batches for money instead of giving them for free like originally intended. And obviously since they lied about it, the mission packs sold like garbage, and Blizzard ended up laying off the entire single player team, and as one report stated, the poor sales resulted in the devs receiving 0% of the company's profit sharing bonuses this month. So the only reason why Overwatch 2 existed was killed off and destroyed because the idiots at the top were too greedy and didn't want the player base having fun if they couldn't make you open your wallets 24/7. Like I said, it's why I've pretty much just thrown Overwatch 2 away and refused to play it on principle alone. I don't really care if the new heroes are fun to play as. I can't really support a game that so evidently just sees its players as breathing wallets than actual people. It's why I've said for a while now, if Rivals wants to drive a stake in Overwatch's heart for good, they should announce a PvE mode and make it entirely free to play. It would 100% kill any and all momentum for Overwatch if Rivals did just that. Adding a Marvel Ultimate Alliance-like mode would instantly make Rivals an all-time Hall of Fame live service game in my opinion. Like, dude, it just writes itself. This season you're fighting Dracula, so you throw hordes of demons at the players, we just gotta push them back and save New York City. Slashing them, killing them with someone like Magic or whoever else, and then we just fight Dracula. I mean, Fortnite this season has added legit roaming bosses to the game already, which you can defeat for special medallions and items too. This style of PvE meets PvP content is working tremendously well for them, and I think Rivals could evolve and do just that. Then whatever you add in the future, let's say, I don't know, Thanos invades the game. You get the Chitauri as the enemies now. And then you let players go ham killing them too to fight Thanos. I still think a capture the flag mode, but its Infinity Stones would be so dope, dude. But the point stands that Rivals is just going to become unstoppable as long as they stay the course that they're on. Then you have this, as Marvel Rivals soars, lapsed Overwatch fans grieve a game they may not go back to. You know it's bad when Kotaku is agreeing with people about things. Kenneth Shepard of Kotaku spends the majority of the article just pretty much stating that even as a diehard fan of Overwatch, they can't bring themselves to play the game anymore due to Rivals existing. But at this point, it's inevitable. Look at these stream numbers. It's insane, dude, the difference between them. I'm sure one day Rivals will start to lapse and eventually fall off, so to speak, as many games often do. But I do think since this is Marvel we're talking about, it can only just continue to get bigger and better as time goes on. It's also pathetic to see Overwatch dropping recolors when Rivals is dropping multiple unique skins with epic intros and everything else. It's like witnessing an elderly person get haymakered. It's like, damn man, they didn't stand a chance at all, did they? But this is all hubris on Blizzard's part. They had the market in virtually zero competition for almost like 10 years, maybe 9. Yet despite that, they fumbled everything anyway, broke promises and lost players' trust from years of bad decisions that were not made with the players' best interests at heart. Ultimately, can we even blame Rivals for what they did here? I don't. This is the fault of Blizzard and Overwatch and nobody else. And they're not even the only ones. PlayStation has been crapping the bed, so to speak, as well, so each PlayStation console cycle is about 7 years. PS4 was from 2013 to 2020, and PS5 is currently in its 5th year. So there is reason to believe that in like 2 years' time, Sony will be advertising a shiny new PlayStation console by then as well. But here's the thing, let's be real guys. Where have the first-party games been? There's some, don't get me wrong, we had Demon's Souls at launch, stuff like Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok, which were but they're out there too. But largely speaking, when you compare its first-party releases from say the PS3 or PS4 era to now, it's abysmal in terms of variety or sheer volume. This brings me to this recent news that the Horizon Live Service MMO has officially been cancelled. This was in development by NC Soft and is now yet another failure of PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan when it comes to his push for more Sony Live Service games. This Horizon MMO was known as Project Skyline internally, and it comes in the wake of even more closures and failures behind the scenes for Sony PlayStation. Push Square spat on Sony, stating their push for live service has been extremely damaging to their brand, and I agree. This generation has just been full of cancellations. I genuinely haven't seen this level of mismanagement on Sony's part in a very long time. Just think about it, dude. Beyond this Horizon MMO cancellation, you had the God of War live service game that got cancelled as well recently, which was being made by Bluepoint, the people who did the Demon's Souls remake and Shadow of the Colossus. Why were they making a God of War live service game anyways? They should be remaking stuff people actually want to see remade, like Metal Gear Solid, Dark Souls, or the Infamous games. There's no reason for these projects to be greenlighted in the first place, not to mention The Last of Us Online that got cancelled last year as well, which was touted as a turning point for Naughty Dog where they would either become a live service studio or a strictly single-player one. And now we can tell which direction they're going into, which is also not what players want, as Intergalactic has drawn the ire of fans worldwide for pushing stuff that nobody wants in games either. I want people to remember that Fair Games is still coming too, which is from Jade Raymond and her team of mostly ex-Ubisoft developers that are making some sort of heist game that looks like the kind of slop you would expect Ubisoft to push out themselves and then would inevitably cancel a year after release too. The only live service game that has worked for Sony lately is Helldivers 2, but that game, despite all the setbacks it had, from community managers and nerfs and really bad communication, is still going strong. But when you think about it, these are all games Sony's first-party studios have been working on for years now, and they're all cancelled. So what happens next? Mass layoffs at Sony? All of these studios could have been making dope single-player games with maybe some co-op thrown in for good measure. But everyone in the industry is so hell-bent on having their own live service game that becomes the next big thing like Rivals did. So instead, we're losing out on so many potentially cooler games in the process. I don't want a live service God of War game ever. I like those games because they don't outlast their welcome. And I would hate a live service reimagining of, say, Infamous or Sly Cooper. I just want new games set in those worlds that are hopefully not full of insufferable girl bosses or dying agendas. Sony has a real problem here, because going forward, the only single-player games that we really know of that are coming that are first-party anyway, are doing things that people are already tired of. You have Intergalactic, which I already mentioned, and then of course you have Ghost of Yote that are both starring weird, crazy liberal activist actors who openly hate conservatives and want to trans kids all the time, and because of these actors being involved in being so weird publicly, I don't really want to play those games, to be honest with you. I feel as if Sony has lost sight of what their players want and are instead being rotted out from the core, so to speak, by North American activists mostly. We should have had a new Bluepoint game by now. We should have had something from these first-party studios at least. I mean, think about it, in fall 2024, what was the big Sony release that was first-party? You're thinking, and I'll save you the trouble, because there wasn't one. They had Concord, which died, and then Astrobot, which won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. But Astrobot didn't come out in the fall. But anyway, funny how the game that was competitively priced to not be a full-price game, that had a finite amount of content and was single-player only and was made by a small team of just around 60 developers, was the game that won them all the awards. Nothing to do with live service, identity politics for sure, or even microtransactions. You ask me, that's the Sony I love, the creative Sony that makes cool games that brings people together and celebrates why we love video games in the first place. Not the Sony that greenlights activist money-burning scenarios like Naughty Dog's Intergalactic and crazy liberal women like in Ghost of Yote or the Last of Us online game or this God of War one too. There is so much wrong going on with Sony right now, and not just them, other places too, like Microsoft can't seem to get anything off the ground from a homegrown perspective either. But these companies need to stop chasing this live service pie. Here's a list that was circling around on Twitter recently. Look at how many live service first-party games have either died or been cancelled this generation alone by Sony. Out of the 17 games listed on here, only 3 are still currently existing as of right now. 3 are to be released, and then there's 3 that are not officially announced but we know of them, and then the rest are just dead as dead can be. This is not sustainable. Not to mention, how do you expect your player base to actually interact with all of these games even if they were all up and running at the same time? You want your PlayStation diehard fans to somehow find the time to play 17 different live service games simultaneously? You're insane, dude. Now, if these were instead 17 single-player games of varying lengths, some are 15 hours, some are 30, and a few are 100, yeah. Your PlayStation fan base could reasonably play these throughout the years and buy them and support you. But you are out of your mind if you think there's enough of the so-called live service pie to have so many titles come all out vying for your constant attention like this. And the sad part is, an executive will look at this list and go, sure, most of them have failed, but some succeeded, so it was all worth it in the end. We need games to be cheaper, smaller, and not taking 5 to 10 years to make if you ask me. Some of my favorite experiences this past year alone has been the classics Sony's been remastering from the PS1, 2, and PSP era on PS Plus. My god, how many times did I just say PS? And also, they're great because they're not 100-hour long time sinks and I can actually play and beat them without sacrificing my entire life to play them. Even if this Horizon MMO did come out, the God of War live service thing, and let's just say Last of Us Online did too, okay? They all came out in this hypothetical scenario. Ask yourself and be real. How the hell would you even be able to play all 3 of those games alone and give them the adequate amount of time, money, and attention while juggling your personal life, your job, your relationships, whatever else? You can't do it. Now go throw Marvel Rivals, Fortnite, and everything else in there, not to mention whatever single-player games you want to play or what's in your backlog. No, just no. You can't do it. You can't. Unless you're a vampire who never sleeps and has millions of dollars in your bank so you never have to work so that you can play all day while also having 0 relationships, family, or anything else, then maybe. But for that very small percentage of people that exist out there, the rest of us can't reasonably do any of this. Sony doesn't have a game problem, they have an executive problem. Jim Ryan has been cooking the brand for years now. His decisions alongside Herman Hulse have so far not bore any fruit worth keeping for the most part. Sure, they've had a few wins, but most of them have been failures, and we need and I hate using this term, but a return to form when it comes to Sony PlayStation going forward. Less live service multiplayer slop, less identity politics, and more single-player games that are just fun to play, that aren't asking me to sacrifice my entire life so I can level a battle pass or something. But what do you think about the state of Sony and PlayStation right now? Are they cooked? Do you like this direction, or do you yearn for the more PS3 era? You ask me? I would love another PS3 era of games from Sony because we were getting tons of cool stuff of varying lengths and prices back then, and it was awesome. God, I miss stuff like Infamous so much, man, it's crazy. Uncharted too. As for Rivals, they're doing great, sure. But it is unrealistic to believe that there can be a 100 Rivals-like games out there all performing the same. It won't happen, it can't. There's a finite amount of players and time and resources out there. Please, game studios, developers, whoever is watching this, we don't want more of this stuff. Please just make smaller games that are priced accordingly going forward. Save us all the headache and yourselves from wasting 10 years of your lives for a game people will drop in a month because there's far too much competition already. But as always, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Have a great day. Thanks to my support, and I'll see you guys soon.